Marvel's Spider-Man 2. If you loved the first two games, get ready to have your mind blown, because this sequel takes everything up a notch. It's got all the web-swinging, action-packed, open-world goodness from the first game, but with some seriously awesome upgrades that make you feel even more like Spidey. First off, swinging through New York again? Man, I could do that for hours. The way they've refined the web-swinging mechanics is just so smooth. You're gliding through the city, flipping between skyscrapers, and pulling off crazy mid-air tricks. There's this new web glider thing that lets you cover so much ground so fast. It's like Spidey's flying, and it's the best feeling when you're cruising over Central Park or zipping through tight alleyways. It makes you feel unstoppable, and you'll never want to use fast travel. And this time, you get to switch between Peter and Miles, which is a game changer. Both of them have their own fighting styles and unique abilities, so it never feels repetitive. Peter's got his classic gadgets, but now he's also rocking those symbiote powers that just feel brutal. You can really feel the strength when he's using them. It's like he's just tearing through enemies. And then you've got Miles, who's all about that flashy Venom energy. I loved how you could seamlessly switch between them, depending on the mission or just how you wanted to play. The combat, too, has been seriously upgraded. It's fast, fluid, and makes you feel like you're choreographing these epic battles. Doom Eternal, a game that's just pure adrenaline. From the moment you start, it's like the game grabs you by the collar and throws you into this insane, demon-filled chaos. The pacing is so fast and relentless, it makes you feel like this unstoppable force. You're not just playing as the Doomslayer, you are the Doomslayer, and it's awesome. One thing I love about Doom Eternal is how it forces you to play aggressively. You can't just hide behind cover and pick off enemies from a distance like in other shooters. No way. You have to get in their faces, constantly moving, switching weapons, and using your chainsaw to keep your ammo up. It's this perfect mix of strategy and brutality. There's no time to breathe. And honestly, that's what makes it so much fun. Every fight feels like a frantic dance of destruction, and once you get the rhythm down, it's such a rush. The combat loop is where it really shines. You're always juggling resources, health, armor, ammo, and you get those by fighting. Need health? Glory kill a demon. Low on armor? Set enemies on fire with the flame belch. It's a constant back and forth, and it makes every encounter feel dynamic. You never just shoot your way through a room, you're managing the chaos, and that's what makes it so addicting. And the weapons, man, each one feels so satisfying. The shotgun, the plasma rifle, the BFG, it's all there, and it's all beefed up to feel more powerful than ever. Doom Eternal is an absolute must-play. It's intense, it's challenging, and it's just pure, unfiltered fun. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. This game takes everything you might expect from a grounded medieval experience and deepens it into something uniquely authentic and immersive. It's not about fantasy or larger-than-life legends. It's about the grit, struggle, and everyday decisions that define life in a time where survival often hinged on skill, wit, and understanding the world around you. The game focuses on realism in a way that feels deliberate and unapologetic. Combat isn't about swinging wildly or relying on flashy moves. It's technical, calculated, and it demands a level of precision that reflects the era it's portraying. Every strike, block, or dodge feels like a decision, a moment where patience and preparation matter as much as raw skill. Weapons and armor don't just look accurate, they function as part of a system that rewards study and strategy over brute force. Villages and towns aren't just backdrops. They feel alive with routines, struggles, and histories that you can choose to engage with or observe from the sidelines. Every location feels purposeful, every interaction meaningful in shaping your path. The survival elements remain a cornerstone of the experience. Keeping track of your health, hunger, and stamina is a constant reminder that this isn't a world designed to cater to you. Your equipment needs maintenance, your skills need refining, and your choices carry consequences that ripple beyond the immediate moment. There's a tangible sense of effort in everything you do. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. A game that feels like a love letter to the roots of the series while bringing something fresh and bold to the table. Movement feels like a dance, fluid, fast-paced, and incredibly rewarding when you string it all together. Sargon isn't just your run-of-the-mill protagonist. He's equipped with an arsenal of moves that make traversal and combat a treat. Whether you're wall running, dodging traps, or leaping across massive gaps, there's a rhythm to it that feels so satisfying. And then there's the combat. Let me tell you, it's not just about hacking and slashing your way through enemies. Every encounter demands strategy. You'll have to master dodges, parries, and combos to succeed. Enemies aren't pushovers. They're smart, they're tough, and they'll make you think on your feet. But that's part of the fun, right? When you finally take down a tricky foe, after figuring out their patterns, it's such a rush. One thing that stands out about The Lost Crown is how it balances exploration and combat. The world is layered with secrets and challenges that encourage you to look beyond the obvious. It's not just about moving from point A to point B. It's about figuring out how to get there, what's hidden along the way, and how to overcome obstacles that aren't always straightforward. The game constantly rewards curiosity, and every time you uncover something new, it feels like a win. Speaking of obstacles, the puzzles in this game are no joke. They're clever, varied, and so satisfying to solve. No Man's Sky, one of the most controversial video game redemption stories out there. When this game first launched, it got slammed hard, like really hard. People were furious because they felt like they were promised the universe, literally, and what they got didn't live up to all the hype. You know how it is when a game gets hyped beyond belief, right? Expectations just go through the roof. The biggest issues at launch were things like missing features, limited multiplayer options, and overall a lack of the promised living, breathing universe that players thought they'd get. It was a huge deal at the time. Everyone was like, where are the massive space battles? Where's all the depth? Players felt misled, and it led to some pretty angry reviews. No Man's Sky became the poster child for overpromised and underdelivered games. But here's the crazy part. Instead of throwing in the towel, the developers at Hello Games just kept working on it. They didn't give up. And over time, they transformed the game into something truly special. Seriously, the updates have been absolutely massive. They kept adding the features players were hoping for, like base building, expanded multiplayer, better exploration mechanics, and more dynamic planets. Now, it's packed with content, and it's a totally different experience from what people saw at launch. It's honestly one of the most positive turnarounds in gaming. It went from being the game everyone loved to hate, to becoming a beloved space exploration game with a really dedicated fanbase. Dishonored 2. It's like stepping into a living painting where every corner has its own story. One of the things I really appreciated was how they expanded on the original game's mechanics. The new powers are incredibly fun to use. For instance, Emily's ability to manipulate time is a game changer. I found myself replaying levels just to experiment with different ways to use her powers. It's like the game gives you a playground for your creativity. Corvo's powers are just as thrilling as ever, but they've added a nice twist with his new abilities. The flexibility in gameplay is fantastic. Whether you prefer stealth or going in with all guns blazing, the game supports both playstyles seamlessly. It's amazing how each mission can be approached in so many different ways. I spent hours just replaying levels to see how different strategies panned out. The story itself, absolutely gripping. The dual perspectives of Emily and Corvo offer such a fresh take on the narrative. I loved seeing how their choices and actions impacted the world around them. It's impressive how the game manages to weave personal stories with broader political intrigue. Also, the character interactions were top-notch. It felt like the NPCs actually had a life of their own, reacting to your choices and changing their behavior accordingly. It made the world feel more dynamic and alive. I found myself genuinely invested in the characters and their fates. If I had to nitpick, there were a few bugs here and there, but nothing that really detracted from the overall experience. Death Stranding, one of the most divisive games out there. When this game dropped, it was like half the gaming community loved it, and the other half was just like, what is this? It's a Hideo Kojima game, so you know it was going to be unique. But Death Stranding took that to a whole new level. Instead of fast-paced action or combat-heavy gameplay, you're a delivery guy in a post-apocalyptic world. It's a game about walking, hiking, and, yes, carrying boxes. People were super confused by the whole concept, especially because the marketing was so mysterious. The trailers didn't really explain much, and when players realized they'd be spending a lot of time delivering packages across desolate landscapes, some were disappointed. It wasn't the action-packed game people expected from the creator of Metal Gear Solid. But here's where the game shines. Death Stranding isn't trying to be a traditional game. It's about the journey, the connections you make, and the feeling of isolation in a broken world. And if you get into that mindset, the game is really something special. It's strangely relaxing. even though it has some seriously intense moments. The way it handles the idea of connecting players, allowing you to help out others in the world by leaving equipment or building structures, was pretty innovative. It made the world feel shared, even though it's a single-player game. Sure, it's not for everyone. If you're looking for constant action, Death Stranding might not be your cup of tea, but if you're in the mood for something different, something that really takes its time to build atmosphere, it's a game that delivers a unique experience. Infamous Second Son. It's such a great pick when looking back at favorite games, especially after all these years. It's one of those games that might not always get mentioned in the big best-of-all-time list, but for those who played it, it really leaves a lasting impression. The game came out as one of the earlier titles for the PS4, and honestly, it still holds up really well. You step into the shoes of Delson Rowe, a rebellious guy who suddenly gets these insane superpowers. What I love about the game is how good it feels to actually use those powers. Whether you're running up buildings, gliding through the air, or just wrecking shop with your abilities, the movement and action feel super smooth and fun. The game absolutely nails that sense of power, which, let's face it, is what we're all here for in a superhero-style game. Seattle is the backdrop for all the action, and they did such a good job with the city's vibe. It's not a carbon copy of the real Seattle, but it's got enough personality to feel alive, and the way the environment changes based on your actions is a nice touch. That whole dynamic, where your choices matter, whether you want to be a hero or lean into a more destructive, rebellious path, adds a layer of replayability. And honestly, both paths are equally fun. Infamous Second Son really nails that feeling of freedom, and the pacing keeps you engaged from start to finish. It's one of those games where you can easily lose hours just exploring, testing out your powers, and getting into epic showdowns with the game's enemies. Nier Automata, one of those games that didn't exactly explode onto the scene when it first launched, but ended up becoming a cult classic. If you've never played it, at first glance it might seem like just another action RPG. But this game much more than that. It's one of those titles that, once you dive in, completely pulls you in with its depth themes and that emotional roller coaster of a story. But here's the thing. When it first came out, not a lot of people were talking about it. Sure, it had fans, but it didn't immediately blow up like some big AAA game. Part of that might be because the original was kind of niche and never really became a mainstream hit. So it had this uphill battle where people weren't sure if it was worth checking out. The game is weird. And I say that in the best possible way. It doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't give you a typical RPG experience, and the story can get really out there. You've got androids questioning the meaning of life, robots acting like humans, existential dread, and more than a few mind-bending plot twists. For some players, it was a little too philosophical. It's not afraid to get deep and ask big questions. And that can be off-putting if you're just looking for a straightforward action game. Then there's the whole multiple endings thing. It doesn't just have a single ending, it has like 26 of them. Now, most of those are joke endings, but to get the full story, you actually have to play through the game multiple times, seeing it from different perspectives. Some people love that. It's one of the game's strengths, but others didn't really want to replay the same sections to uncover the whole narrative. The Callisto Protocol. It's from Glenn Schofield, one of the co-creators of Dead Space, so if you know that series, you can expect a similar intensity here, with a unique twist that keeps things fresh. One of the things I love about this game is how it creates tension. It's not just jump scares, though there are a few really effective ones. It's that constant feeling of dread. You're almost always low on ammo and health, so every encounter with the twisted, mutated inmates of this prison feels like a struggle to survive. The combat is brutal and up close, forcing you to really get in there and make every swing count. It's not your typical action game where you can just spray bullets and move on. Here, you're scraping by with whatever resources you can find, and it adds so much to the immersion and intensity. The combat is visceral. There's this raw, almost primal feel to it. The melee system in particular is pretty unique for a horror game. You actually have to get in close to bash these creatures, and it's terrifying in the best way. You're not just standing back with a gun. You're practically fighting for your life in every encounter, which makes the experience that much more intense. What really stands out, though, is how the game creates this balance between horror and sci-fi mystery. Sure, you're dealing with terrifying creatures and survival, but there's also this big, intriguing story underneath it all. Why did everything go wrong on Callisto? What's causing these transformations? The game does a great job of feeding you bits and pieces of the narrative as you go. Mafia 3. One of the first things you'll notice is how alive New Bordeaux feels. The game nails that late 60s vibe, and I'm talking about the music, the cars, the fashion, even the radio broadcast. It all feels authentic and pulls you right into that era. The city itself is beautifully crafted, with neighborhoods that feel distinct and packed with character. The gameplay is all about strategic takedowns, stealth, and taking control of the city piece by piece. Lincoln doesn't just kick down doors and take names. He's smart about his approach, and you get to choose how to tackle each mission. You can go in guns blazing, but sneaking around and taking out enemies quietly is just as satisfying. Plus, as you start to take control of different territories, you actually build your own little crime empire, assigning lieutenants and gaining perks that make Lincoln even more of a powerhouse. It's a cool twist that makes you feel like you're really shaping the criminal landscape of New Bordeaux. One thing I personally loved about Mafia 3 is how it tackles some serious themes. The game doesn't shy away from the realities of the time. There's racism, corruption, and all kinds of hard truths woven into the storyline. It makes Lincoln's journey feel so much more impactful. You're not just going on missions for the sake of gameplay. You're stepping into his shoes, experiencing the highs and lows, and feeling the weight of what he's fighting for. It gives the story a level of depth that you don't always see in open-world games. Demon's Souls. The world of this game is jaw-dropping, especially in the remake for the PS5. You step into this dark, eerie kingdom of Boletaria, and right away, the atmosphere pulls you in. Each area has this unique vibe, from creepy, foggy swamps to towering castles and fiery caverns. One thing that really stands out in Demon's Souls is how it doesn't hold your hand at all. There's no big tutorial here, just you, your sword, and the mystery of Boletaria. That might sound intimidating, but honestly, it's what makes this game so memorable. You're learning as you go, and every little discovery feels like a personal victory. And when you finally figure out a tricky pattern or beat a boss that felt impossible, that's one of the most satisfying feelings in gaming. And speaking of bosses, Demon's Souls has some of the best. Each one is unique, creepy, and requires you to stay on your toes and really study their moves. You'll probably get your butt kicked a few times or a dozen times, but that's okay. It's all part of the fun. Each boss fight feels like a grand event. There's this tension in the air, and you're just waiting to see what insane move they're going to throw at you next. But when you finally bring one down, the victory feels so sweet, like you've just accomplished something epic. The game's mechanics are simple, but feel just right. It's not about flashy combos or crazy powers. It's about timing, patience, and learning from every mistake. A Way Out. This game really caught me off guard in the best way possible. If you've ever wanted a true co-op experience, like a game where you have to rely on another person to progress, this is it. And it's not just some side feature. Co-op is literally baked into the entire game. You can't play this solo, and honestly, that's what makes it awesome. So, you're basically playing as these two guys, Leo and Vincent, who are trying to break out of prison. But it's not just a prison break game. It's so much more. You get to know these two characters, their stories, and how their lives are intertwined. What's cool is that both players control one of them, and each player has their own unique perspective and role in the story. It feels like you're part of a movie, where every scene is intense and meaningful. The way the split screen works is genius. Even though you're doing different things sometimes, like one person might be sneaking around while the other is in a fistfight, it all flows together. And you have these moments where you've got to coordinate with your partner, timing a move or making a plan to escape or fight. And when you pull it off, it feels so satisfying. You really need to communicate and work together, which makes it such a fun experience if you're playing with a friend. One of the best parts? The variety. You're not just breaking out of prison and that's it. No way. There are car chases, stealth sections, emotional moments, and even a few mini-games that you wouldn't expect. What I love is how the story keeps building. It's not just about escaping. It's about the relationship between Leo and Vincent. Resident Evil 7. One of the coolest things about the game is how immersive it feels. They went with a first-person perspective, which, let me tell you, makes everything so much scarier. It's like you're in the middle of a horror movie, and you're the main character. And they nailed that gritty, creepy vibe. The sound design is just incredible, with creaky floors, distant footsteps, and other little sounds that keep you on edge. It really pulls you into the experience. You're exploring this creepy, run-down mansion, and right away, you can feel the game practically daring you to go deeper. And trust me, every corner you turn is filled with suspense. It's got that classic, what's around the next corner feel, where you're bracing yourself for something terrifying. I found myself holding my breath more than a few times. Combat-wise, it's got that classic Resident Evil survival feel. You're not overloaded with ammo, so every bullet counts, and you have to make careful decisions. It's a nice balance of horror and action, where you're fighting to survive, but still constantly feeling vulnerable. And the enemies? Let's just say they're some of the creepiest in the series. The puzzles are a fun throwback too. They're clever, without being overwhelming, and they add that classic Resident Evil touch to the game. You're searching for keys, unlocking doors, and solving riddles, which all just adds to the sense of discovery and dread. And honestly, the Baker family. They are some of the most memorable characters in horror gaming. Period. Each encounter with them is just nerve-wracking, and you never know what they'll do next. Metal Gear Solid V: The Phantom Pain. It's one of those experiences that really makes you feel like you're in control of a tactical open-world espionage operation. From the moment you start as Big Boss, or Venom Snake, if you want to get technical, you know you're in for something special. The way the game blends stealth, action, and freedom of choice is just next level. Let's start with the open world. Unlike previous Metal Gear games, which were more linear, the Phantom Pain drops you into these massive living environments. You've got Afghanistan's rocky, mountainous terrain, and the jungles of Africa, each filled with enemy bases, patrols, and wild animals. The thing is, the world isn't just a backdrop. It reacts to how you play. You can approach missions any way you want, whether it's going in guns blazing or sneaking in without anyone ever knowing you were there. And the best part? If you get caught, the game doesn't punish you too harshly. You can adapt, think on your feet, and still pull off the mission. That freedom keeps the tension high and the experience fresh every time. The stealth mechanics, they're just so well done. You've got all these tools at your disposal. Decoys, tranquilizer guns, night vision goggles, and you can customize your loadout for every mission. One of my favorite things to do is use the cardboard box, classic Metal Gear, to sneak around or surprise enemies. It's so ridiculous, but somehow always works. And Mother Base is such a cool feature, you're constantly building it up. Plague Tale Innocence. This is one of those games that really sticks with you long after you put down the controller. Have you ever started a game and almost immediately felt transported into a different world? That's what this game does. It's not just about the mechanics or the graphics. It's the story and the atmosphere that completely pull you in. Set during the 14th century, the game centers around a young girl, Amicia, and her little brother Hugo. From the start, you feel this sense of urgency, danger, and dread. I think what makes it special is the bond between the siblings. It's emotional. You genuinely feel Amicia's protective instinct for her brother, and it brings out this unique side of gameplay, where it's not just about survival, but about care and responsibility. The world itself is both beautiful and horrifying at the same time. I mean, yes, it's grim, the plague is spreading, the Inquisition is ruthless, and rats are everywhere. Seriously, if you hate rats, this game will challenge that. But the art direction is so stunning. I'd find myself just pausing to admire a landscape or the light filtering through a ruined building, even though I knew danger was everywhere. It's these little moments of beauty that make the darker, scarier elements hit even harder. What I found refreshing about Plague Tale is how it combines puzzle solving, stealth, and storytelling so seamlessly. You're not just mindlessly fighting enemies. Instead, you're constantly thinking, strategizing, and using your environment to your advantage. Persona 5. Without spoiling anything, you play as a high school student with a secret double life. By day, you're navigating the trials and tribulations of school, classes, exams, and hanging out with your friends. But by night, you're a phantom thief, sneaking into mysterious realms to change hearts and fight evil. It's as cool as it sounds, trust me. The menus, the animations, even the transitions, everything feels like it was designed by someone with a passion for flair. Every little detail screams, we're going to make this look amazing, even if it's just a loading screen. And don't even get me started on the music. The jazzy soundtrack is the kind of thing you'll be humming for weeks after you play. And the gameplay. It's this perfect blend of turn-based combat and life simulation, and somehow it works beautifully. One moment you're strategizing in these gorgeous, surreal dungeons, pulling off stylish combos and unleashing your personas. which, by the way, are basically manifestations of your inner psyche. The next, you're deciding how to spend your free time. Do you study for your next exam, work a part-time job, or go out for ramen with your friends? The balance between these two sides of the game is just chef's kiss. What I love most, though, is how Persona 5 makes everything you do feel meaningful. Spending time with your friends, called confidants, isn't just fun, it also gives you bonuses in battle. Doing well in school or working a part-time job helps you build skills that open up even more opportunities. Even the smallest choices feel like they matter. The Surge 2. I feel like it doesn't get enough credit, but I had such a good time with it. If you're into that whole Souls-like experience, but with a sci-fi twist, this game is exactly what you need. It takes that punishing, tactical combat formula and throws it into this futuristic, dystopian world, which is a super cool setting for this kind of gameplay. The thing that really hooked me was the combat. It's brutal, but in the best way. You're not just hacking and slashing mindlessly. You actually have to target specific limbs, which adds a whole new layer of strategy. I loved figuring out which part of an enemy I wanted to focus on. Do I go for the unarmored areas for an easy kill, or do I try to chop off a limb to get some sweet gear? Every fight felt like a puzzle, and I never got tired of that. Jericho City has this gritty industrial feel to it. The world building is solid. There's this mix of high-tech and complete chaos, and as you explore, you find out more about what went wrong in this messed-up future. The city itself is pretty open, with tons of shortcuts and hidden paths, which made exploring feel rewarding. Plus, the verticality of the levels was cool. You're not just walking through corridors. You're jumping, climbing, and finding secret areas that connect back in smart ways. It had that same feeling as Dark Souls, in how the world loops back on itself. The story is pretty interesting too. You're kind of dropped into this mess without much context, and as you play, you slowly piece together what happened in Jericho City. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Mirage drops you into 19th century Baghdad, and let me tell you, it's gorgeous. The city feels alive, bustling with activity, narrow streets, and towering rooftops that beg to be climbed. The attention to detail here is incredible. It's like they cracked open a history book and turned it into a vibrant, living world. If you've been a fan of the series since the early days, you'll love the gameplay here. It's all about stealth, precision, and planning. No more running into a group of enemies and fighting your way out like a tank. Mirage encourages you to think like an assassin again, sneak through crowds, blend in, climb up to a vantage point, and take your shot when the time is right. It's so satisfying when a plan comes together and you get that perfect, clean assassination. The parkour feels so good. It's smooth, fluid, and makes navigating the city an absolute joy. There's nothing quite like sprinting across rooftops, vaulting over obstacles, and making a daring leap onto a narrow beam while a guard shouts, "Hey you!" from the street below. The freedom of movement is top tier, and it reminded me of why I fell in love with this series in the first place. The story is also a highlight. No spoilers, I promise, but it's tightly focused, and that's a good thing. After the sprawling epics of recent Assassin's Creed games, Mirage feels like a refreshing change of pace. It's more personal, more intimate, and it really leans into the assassin versus the system theme. You get to see the journey of Basim. Yes, that Basim, if you've played Valhalla. Mortal Kombat 11. The game that takes everything you know and love about this legendary franchise and cranks it up to 11, literally. The combat feels tight, responsive, and packed with layers of depth. Whether you're a button masher or someone who's memorized every single combo in the series, the game caters to all kinds of players. It's easy to jump in and start throwing punches, but mastering a character, that's where the real fun begins. And speaking of characters, the roster here is incredible. You've got old favorites, some unexpected returns, and a few surprises that will definitely keep you on your toes. Each fighter feels unique, with their own playstyle, moves, and, of course, those iconic fatalities. Seriously, the fatalities in this game are a spectacle. They're gruesome, sure, but they're also so over the top that you can't help but laugh and cringe. It's like a masterclass in creative chaos. But it's not just about fighting, it's about strategy. Mortal Kombat 11 introduces new mechanics like the Fatal Blow and Crushing Blows, which add an extra layer of depth to each match. These aren't just flashy moves, they're game changers that can turn the tide of a fight if used wisely. It's all about timing and knowing when to strike, and it keeps every match feeling fresh and unpredictable. One thing that stands out is how accessible the game feels without sacrificing its complexity. If you're new to the series, the tutorials are super helpful, breaking down everything from basic moves to advanced strategies.